about 5 years ago, Patrick introduced me to Leila, and we have had such a great opportunity to partner, and more importantly for me to be able to learn from Leila in the last 5 years. And I am just so excited to be able to bring Leila here and talk about the possibilities for all of us to think about not only how we work or potentially can work with Sama Group, but also how we can think about our businesses every day and the opportunities that we have to grow our businesses, whether they're nonprofit businesses or for-profit businesses, through the skills that Leila has brought to us. I'm going to ask Leila a couple of questions, and then we'll open up for the audience. So, Leila, first of all, you talked about Sama USA, Sama School, and can you share with us some of the successes and as well some of the things that you learned along the way that are going to make Sama School much better throughout the world?
Sure. So first of all, again, I have to mention that it took a really long time to get that program funded, and we were rejected so many times before Kathlyn took me out to lunch and told us she would fund it. And that funding enabled us to hire a really stellar person to run the program who came from a wonderful job training program for at-risk foster youth who are aging out of the foster care system in Oakland. So we hired her and she helped us develop this program. We learned a lot along the way. So in the earliest iteration, we thought we were going to do everything ourselves and set up our own centers in these communities, and we got started in the Bayview, which is a really tough area in the southern part of San Francisco that has very high persistent unemployment and really high rates of other challenges that make it difficult to work. And so we set up our own center at the YMCA. We took over an old police boxing gym and we repainted the walls and we put in Wi-Fi. And it was really challenging because we didn't know that community very well. And so after a few iterations of working there, we saw good outcomes in the students, but we also saw that we were never going to be able to scale with that model of working. And that's how we developed this partnership model where we find local job training organizations that already have a great reputation in the community. Maybe they're teaching people to do construction work, or they're teaching people how to do retail jobs or hospitality. And we give them access to a new curriculum that supercharges what they're currently training people to do by giving people digital work skills. And we found that those digital work skills make someone more resilient, even if they're training to be a construction worker, because you should know how to use the internet to sell your services online. I mean, it's a requirement of the new economy. So we found that approach of being a value-added partner as opposed to setting up our own infrastructure everywhere is the best way to go forward. And we just got funding from the Robin Hood Foundation in New York to do another variation of our model out there with 1,000 new students.
So lesson learned for all of us as we think about how we can move our businesses forward. Partnership is one of the best lessons that we can think about and say, how do we make sure that we have that value add? Leila, one of the things that appealed to me when we first started working together was the partnership with the community colleges. We know that oftentimes students who attend community colleges have the biggest reason or the greatest reason why they drop out of college is because they can't afford to stay in school. They're oftentimes having to care for their families and or at least caring for themselves. With no job, it means that they're not going to stay in school. Can you talk with us about your success rate with students in community college? And have you seen many of these students be able to take online work and graduate as well?
Sure. And I should say that there are other experts like Constance in the audience today who know much more about the community college system than I do, so please chime in. Our original thesis for Change was that we were going to help people who were enrolled in community college but at risk of dropping out because they lacked the income to finish. Even if they had free tuition, they still couldn't manage their living expenses, the cost of caring for family members, transport, et cetera, and graduate. And there's a 70% dropout rate, or at least the last time I looked at the statistics, nationwide among community college students. The primary reason cited for dropping out is lack of income. So the original thesis was, could we get these people supplemental income so they could stay in school? We have only been operating and tracking data since early 2013. We got the funding in 2012. We started our pilot in March of 2013. So we don't yet have enough data to see long-term whether this is encouraging people to graduate. But our initial data shows that it's effective at keeping them in some form of higher education. We have a lot of people who end up pursuing some kind of online credential, even online college. We're talking now with ASU about doing a partnership with their 4-year program to basically supplement people's skills. If they drop out before 4 years, they'll still have some skills that they can use to get a job. So far, the data is showing that people are able to do this work and maintain whatever other commitments they have, including education. And one of the demographics that's of a lot of interest to us is single mothers who have, women in general have much more care requirements, many more care requirements than their male counterparts. One of the biggest challenges for working women is fitting in everything into their schedule. So having a totally flexible job that allows you to work from home has been a lifesaver for many of the women that we target through our US program.
Leila, when we were working together in Hunter Bay View, one of the stories that stuck with me I used to attend the graduations of these students, and one of the stories that stuck with me was that Leila connected many of these students to real work. So her team took students to the Google offices in San Francisco. There were students who shared with us that they'd grown up in Hunter Bay View, which was 7 miles away from the Golden Gate Bridge, and they had never seen the Golden Gate Bridge. So imagine the world that is opening up for many of these students beyond online work, but this opportunity to see the world in a bigger way. Can you share with us, is that kind of experience that I got to see firsthand and hear of firsthand, is that happening throughout the world?
One of the most touching things that happened to me doing SAMA was similar to what you described. One of our students, who's also from the Bayview, had the benefit of getting a visit from this group from Google called Black Googlers. It's a diversity program within Google, and they came out to speak to our students. And we do this sometimes if we have a local presence like we do in San Francisco, we can bring them physically. Other times we record videos and we put that through our curriculum. So we have a center in Arkansas and we show videos of this. But this student came up to me and he came out of the foster care system. He was African American, and he said, I had no idea that there were Black people working at Google. Literally said that. And David Drummond, who's like now, I think he's the #2 at Alphabet, the founder's new parent company for Google, who's like one of the most prominent Google executives, is Black. And it struck me that this is one of the big barriers, is that young kids who grow up in the Bayview just don't see themselves in those jobs. And I think that's a major psychological barrier that we can't get rid of unless we show them that there are people who look just like them who are working in these jobs, and they're the only barrier. Obviously there are a lot of structural barriers, but psychologically there shouldn't be one. And I think a big part of what we do is show people that technology is not just for people who look like Mark Zuckerberg. You can find a path in the internet economy for you. And one of the benefits of the internet economy is that it should, in theory, be more meritocratic. You can apply for jobs wherever you happen to live, whether you happen to live in rural Ghana or rural Arkansas or the Bayview. And you can be judged on your merit. It's much easier to track performance through web-based applications. So we have a lot of young people see early successes, and that's very motivating. This same young person who told me that he never knew Black people worked at Google got his first job on TaskRabbit, installing car stereos for people. He's really good with cars, and he got the highest rating you could get from an Amazon executive whose car radio he installed. And then this kid was making like $1,000 in supplemental income a month just doing odd jobs, and he was getting paid triple the minimum wage. So just that experience alone showed him that, wow, I can use technology to serve my need, which is earning income. And maybe there's really something to all of this that I didn't see before.
So much broader opportunity for us to enhance the lives of these students and these workers by expanding their worldview. I want to be sure that everybody in the room has the opportunity to ask questions. I've got many more if you're all still formulating your questions, but Dominique, are we just taking hands? Do we have a mic or? Perfect. So if you want to raise your hand, we have a mic. And Dominique and Wynn will come around and give you the mic. So we'll just start over here, right where you are, Wynn.